orí mẹ́yìn láàárọ̀ yìí. Gbọ́ ìlú náà. Sorry, gbọ́ ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀. One is missing: the significance of social political legacy for posterity. Are you Dr. Nice. He was saying the committee is presented at AXA by okay. Yeah. That, so really, really,
In abstract. Most of that presents an interpretation of one's reality and makes it possible for us to see potence of works of art, especially in human connections, mental health. It has been shown that art is closely related to mental health, and that art can help to develop some mental health possibilities and issues. So, at the level of freedom, for me, the narrative of struggle is just a struggle for presentation of ideas that can be used between the diaspora and the African. So it's more of a protest narrative, but showing that the narrative has incorporated different ideas of knowledge, but especially based on his own experience between the diaspora and Africa. And that there are lots to be pedagogically benefited if works of art are more their significance, or that we engage more with works of art so that mindsets and every other issues in national development or personal development, arts play a lot of role. Thank you.
Wow. Dr. Balogun as well, you didn't tell us the title of the book.
The title of the book?
Yes, the book, the major book is
The Narrative of Struggle. Narrative of Struggle.
Okay.
That's the caveat that the narrative of struggle, something in development, politics and development.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate. Please a round of applause, please. Very fine. Just 10 minutes. Dr. Balogun attempted to locate Bewaji's work using the narrative of struggle, his contribution on philosophy of arts in the narrative of struggle. I attempted to locate it within as one of the contributions that was able to highlight the role of, especially in managing mental health, and how it can help and how Bewaji contributed in bridging that discussion in the diaspora with the work here in Africa. I have some comments. I will reserve my comment later because your presentation was very short and to the point. So I will go straight to the next presenter, which is Imaja.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me in the back? Yeah. Okay. So,
my work explores Bewaji's critique of the Western epistemological approach, which and how that has impacted on the development of an authentic Caribbean philosophical thought. And I explore this through examining Bewaji's call for a pluricultural approach, which is essentially a challenge to the dominance of Western epistemology. So with this challenge, Bewaji creates a space for diverse knowledge systems to emerge. So I approach this through a reflective and also a theoretical analysis where I consider how Bewaji's work contributes to the broader decolonial project and also assists with the development of Caribbean philosophical project by exploring a creolization framework through which we can understand Caribbean identity. So Bewaji's critique is that Western philosophy is often preoccupied with obscure theorizing, and they can afford to do this because they've largely met their critical needs. But students of the global south don't have that luxury because we have not yet met our critical developmental need. And so philosophy needs to be or needs to have a practical application. So we need to be proactive with the use of philosophy. So rather than dismissing Western epistemology, though, I think that Bewaji challenges us to critically engage with Western epistemology and to pick out aspects that can genuinely aid us or assist us in alleviating some of the dire circumstances or challenging circumstances that we face as people who exist in the global south. So Bewaji presents an idea that philosophy is supposed to be in the service of life. And so it is not supposed to exist as an end in itself, but as a tool that will be able to take us from point A to point B. And he also stresses that it should be relevant to the context in which the philosophy is being used. If there is no relevance, then there will be a disconnect between the people and the philosophy, right? So as much as I agree with Bewaji's challenge that we should, not fixate ourselves on this abstract theorizing, I also, and that we should use philosophy to promote our well-being. I also believe that our human existence goes beyond material well-being. So this practical orientation also does not negate that life encompasses more than just our material well-being, and people of the global south, like all people, confront challenges, though the challenges may be different in different contexts. So so there is also value, I would say, sometimes in abstract philosophizing, because this also allows us to cultivate intellectual autonomy by exploring cultural and spiritual dimensions of life. And it also allows us to promote a more resilient society when we can be able to contrast the differences in how we conceptualize different things like knowledge, reality, etc. So philosophy can serve both as a tool to address immediate needs of the community, but it can also help individuals at an individual level to help them to foster more robust and holistic social development. So the pursuit of personal empowerment through philosophy is also of value. So Yeah. So I'll briefly tell you about my intellectual journey with when I encountered Bewaji's work. I was an undergraduate student and I encountered his work in the final year of an undergraduate study. And before that, I'd idealized Western philosophy as a means of explaining or giving a universal ordering of the world. But in reading Bewaji's work, I experienced a fracturing of that foundation. And so I was confronted with, at the same time, an affront and also an invitation to explore. So it wasn't a smooth deconstruction, it was really a rapid demolition of the foundation that led me to also want to challenge this because I was also not comfortable with that rupture. So in attempting to challenge Bewaji's work, I ended up challenging myself. And what resulted was the reconstruction of a conceptual framework through which I was able to see the Caribbean reality identity from a conceptual framework that is rooted in Caribbean philosophy. And that is the lens now through which I view the world and through which I understand the Caribbean experience, through which I understand the world and my place within the world. So, do I have time? Yeah, okay. So, in this reconstruction, where we or within Caribbean philosophy, there are two major, I would say, themes. This is the Afrocentrism and the creolization theme. So both of these themes are developed to counter the Western narrative. So they serve the same purpose, but the approach is different. So Afrocentrism, it puts African and African people at the center of understanding history and culture that has been often ignored. Yeah. So, but I see it as presenting a limitation because we can become fixed only on Africa, and we miss out other important parts of the Caribbean reality. And there's also the risk of potentially replacing the European constructed identity with the African constructed identity, which we have absolutely no control over. And so we need to be able to have something that is more within our reach. We don't have any control over how the African identity evolved. And so in fixating, if there is a fixation on the African identity, then we essentially fall back into the cycle of dependency. And so I see creolization as offering a more inclusive and diverse approach because it allows the inclusion of diverse voices and experiences that have shaped the Caribbean, and it supports the flexibility of different ideas of identity. So its strength is that it rejects centrality of any single identity by interrogating all the influences in an overarching theme of Caribbean collective being that involves many other ethnicities. So, and that is in acknowledging that we are a new creation born from the infusion of diverse people and diverse views.
Thank you, Kumaja. Omolara, Omolarami, right? Omolarami. A perspective on Bewaji's work is basically from what she has said, that Bewaji contributed so much to the discourse on the search for authentic Africa and the identity. But at a point, it seems Bewaji is too pragmatic, always looking for the solution. And because she believes that the abstract should not be thrown away. And it's because it's very important to her. It's our engagement with Bewaji's work even made her to give her personal, what she call rapid demolition of her personal beliefs, which eventually led to a reconstruction of what in the conceptual framework to view the self as well as her Caribbean experience, which she has concluded, or she's still interrogating, that has made that the beauty of colonization, through Bewaji's work, has made her to challenge colonization. And that perspective seems to her makes the diversity in the Caribbean something that is worth endearing, that's endearing to the Jamaican community, rather than just projecting the identity of individual units that makes the group. That is a perspective, and thanks so much for that perspective. Maybe that takes a different detour from what Balogun said. We hear more from that. I have my own questions to ask you, but I think I will hold on until we have general contribution. Now we go to the nation. The nation gives on the significance of socio-political legacies of austerity. 10 minutes.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Fine.
All right. So my name is Tanisha Gibbs. I'm a PhD student at Rhodes University in South Africa. I am from Jamaica, and I'm on scholarship from Beirut University in Germany. Now, my presentation I will be reading. I'm not as rich as these two presentators. So I'll be reading. Actually, I wrote quite a long presentation, so I didn't expect 10 minutes, so I'm actually going to skip through. I hope that we will all understand as I skip through, but during the question times, you can ask me questions. I can answer that more clearly. Oh, now, this presentation draws on the work of Bewaji, 2012, the book Narratives of Struggle, the Philosophy and Politics of Development, to reflect on the social, political, economic, cultural significance and legacy of narratives of struggle for global Africa. Now, I want to explain something. When I mention Africans, I'm speaking about, in general, Black people, both on the continent and in the diaspora. So I don't necessarily say Black, I say Africans. So when I say Africans, you understand it's global. Now, in this work, which is accumulation of decades of reflection on the condition of global Africans' humanity, Bewaji lets its Pan-Africanist perspectives on the challenges of development of the global Africans, home and abroad, that is inside and outside of the continent of Africa, to take center stage. Now, Pan-Africanism has long been concerned with methods for development and challenges that deter development of Africa and the global Africans. My effort here is to show how significant narrative of struggle is to understand the historical and the propounding solutions to the challenges faced by global Africa. Narrative of struggle, again, is accumulation of decades of research aimed at helping global Africa to break away from shackles of dependency in various ways: spiritual, educational, scientific, technology, culture, and many others. This, in my view, is what makes the legacies of the book one which generations of scholars, policymakers, and researchers will continue to find compelling. Now, numerous work on development challenging global Africa were explored in the fields of geopolitics, economics, culture, and philosophy. For example, Walter Rodney, groundbreaking geopolitical arguments about the underdevelopment of Africa by Europe, and Marcus Garvey's philosophical thoughts on the development through racial identity or the character of the African mind. These things easily come to our mind. Now, it has been argued that the problem with these approach in Pan-Africanism is a kind of a blame game where you either blame the other or an obsession with racial identity. But as Bewaji expressed and suggests that global Africa must not only be aware of the historical challenges of global colonialism and slavery, neocolonialism and imperialism, but be aware of the numerous ways that African minds need to be liberated from the dependence essential which the epistemic deficit has fostered on our minds. Now, the reason why this approach taken by Bewaji is interesting is that while the farmer, in terms of blaming, shift responsibility to the other, and the other sector speaks about the racial identity where they said it's more fluid. Bewaji argues that scholars have suggested in Pan-Africanism is kind of, people saying that it is outdated and not up to our current reality. Yes? However, in 2025, Pan-Africanism thoughts have revitalized, both in terms of geopolitics and philosophical thoughts. And this is quite obvious to all of us from social media, media houses, that the rebirth of Pan-Africanism is currently drawing from current international relations between nations and the movement towards self-determination through self-reliance and the character or mind of our political leaders. Though the ideas around self-determination through self-reliance tend to be viewed as protectionism, which is in contrast to globalization that draws on realism and neorealism theories of either isolation or open market. However, with the current geopolitical tension and strong patriotic personalities of leadership, as we can see, protectionism is now about enhancing self-determination through self-reliance. And we can see this on a global scale. For example, when we look at Denmark, Denmark is seeking digital independence from USA, Microsoft, and is drawing now towards their own European brand. China is also seeking independence from USA in terms of their digital technology. The Sahels looking forward to the global refinement, which is also withdrawing from international. And if we look across Africa, this same type of promoting domesticating our raw material, this is happening in Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Botswana, and also in the Channel. Oh, my word. I'm almost finished and I don't start. So it is clear that Pan-Africanism thoughts and development and challenges to development in the area of geopolitics and the character of leadership is most relevant in our times. And so Bewaji explore these challenges to development of the global Africa by combining geopolitics and philosophical thoughts on Pan-Africanism. I don't have much time, so I will okay. Okay. Now, the significance of Bewaji's work resonates with the current geopolitical tension, which former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in 2025 described as a new regime. The previous regime banked on political, philosophical, and economic ventures of globalization as a solution to global prosperity. Now, the aim of globalization was to open markets, trading of goods, peoples and ideas across borders. However, globalization tends to benefit developed countries more than developing countries. And as it is seen now, even the developed countries are realizing that globalization is not benefiting them as much as they would like. So the methods and challenges to development for Africans and African societies continue to struggle under post and colonial situation for the resources, where we see exploitation, export of developed African natural resources. As the leader of Burkina Faso, Captain Abraham Tavares noted, global Africa needs to look around and ask yourself. In fact, we can all look around ourselves and ask ourselves, where is this me? If we all look ourselves, we should ask, where are our things made? Where's your glasses made, your watch made, your clothes made? He's asking us to begin to see that. And he draws on a simple illustration, the hanger in our wardrobe where we hang our clothes. He said that is made in China. But an hanger is a simple thing where you just put two wires and twist it together. So why is it that even something as simple as that is made in China? Why is it we can't be making our own? And this also linked to what Bewaji had mentioned, that when we go anywhere across the world, we see Japanese cars. And so descendants of Japanese anywhere across the world feel a sense of pride and they want to know about Japan. And this is missing because the Japanese will show through their very vehicle and exploitation the success of their production, the export, performance, and designs of their vehicles. So the new way, as Bewaji had captured in narrative of struggle as far as 2012, explore this inward, introspective perspective. That is exploring African perspective, tradition, our willpower, skill, resources, and history. That is looking inward for solution. Self-determination through self-reliance. And I will just and down to the end now. So the success of China over the last 70 years shows that the colonial situation is not the problem. That Pan-Africanism does not endorse dwelling on the colonial situation as the problem. That waiting for Western knowledge, political policies is also not the solution. And so Bewaji suggests that we have to start transiting this kind of Western ontology and epistemology. This is why he has developed a kind of methodology. Forgive me for my language. A pipi. In the light of this, Bewaji therefore advocates global African, pay attention to the African tradition, pay attention to the Chinese model. And yes, I will end it right here because the new regime has shifted global political players and revealed that the significance of the leadership, their character, is important to the development and the prosperity of the society. And so Africans at home and abroad are therefore witnessing now and participating in the rebirth of Pan-Africanism to continue building the legacy of prosperity. Thank you.
Wonderful presentation there. That's really attempted to look at the plight of Africans, like she has put it, neither the one Black Africa or the white African, Africa in the generic sense, which we have used it. How this being called the Africans are trying to attempt their attempts to survive the challenges of existence. And particularly, I must mention how you see or try to put Bewaji's work among those who contributed to expanding, espouse on the plight of Pan-Africanism and African existence, and how this has helped in what we have called the rebirth of Pan-Africanism. Although I will ask you a question about the man in the Sahel that everybody is talking so much about, but it's not my paper, it is yours. So thank you so much, Teresa. I'll go to Ruth Gadama, who wants to present on cultural and religious interplay in human capital development. This is getting interesting. One sees Bewaji as too practical, another one is seeing the religious Bewaji. I look forward to the discussion. Ruth, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ruth Gadama. I'm a PhD student in religious interaction from University of Ghana. So, my work is going to speak to how culture and religion is at play and how it affects human capital development. So, we all know that human capital development is the engine body of every society. The society will function well. The humans have to be able to check. They have to be okay. And my voice is low. Oh, sorry. The humans have to be in check. They have to be intact, and they have to have the necessities that make them function in society. So I start from culture. What is culture? Culture is who you are, what you do, how you live, and what works around your environment. So we look at religion. Religion is your belief. What do you believe in? Do you believe in tradition? Do you believe in Abrahamic? What makes you function properly as a person? So we try to merge the two of them. You, on a good day, you think, oh, religion is different from culture. But research and scholarly work have shown that they are intertwined. They work hand in hand, and they all depend, they are independent on each other to get a better function, especially in human capital. So we also look at, I looked at how religion affects the person in you and to make it more productive. So religion is what guides you. It's what builds you. It's what directs you and keeps you in order as a person. So most research work, study works have also shown that people of religion and culture always are better productive. They produce better service in their places of work because they are in order, they do things orderly, and they believe there's a being that is checking their activities and what they do. So now, bringing it to the work, because the title of my work is Religion and Cultural Interplay in Human Capital Development, as said in the academic journey of Professor Ayotunde Ishola Bewaji. So for me, Professor Bewaji is a hero that's meant to be celebrated. Why did I say he's a hero? Because his works has dealt with our existential problems that have existed for a long time. The problem of leaving the country, and in some cases, we find people that when they leave the country, they don't even want to associate with where they are coming from. But in the case of Professor Bewaji, he left, but he kept in touch with African society, our political, our economic, our religious, our foundational, everything that's in Africa. He was still in touch with whatever is happening home, both in Africa and in diaspora. So his work tries to build and shape us in different dimensions. If you fairly follow his work, you realize that the work has been speaking to cultural preservation, cultural protection, also how to retain culture, how your belief system should be your guide, not what you see in the contemporary society. And he further, not minding his interaction. Another beautiful part of his journey is there was no cultural life. Cultural life is when you allow another culture dominate the other parts of your culture. He has traveled, he has interacted, he has assimilated different cultures. That is why he was able to function properly in the Caribbean. he has impacted the Caribbean. That is why today we have someone sitting down and telling us how he has affected her mental reasoning. And she has started finding solutions, theorizing how she can come out of what she has always believed in. That is to say, he had a positive impact on the society that he lived for almost 3 decades. Now, coming back to Nigeria, I, as a young scholar, African scholar, I am from Kano. I'm from Maiduguri. But academic journey took me to different parts of Nigeria. And when I encountered him as a MA student in IAGS, my personal encounter, when I encountered him, I found a father. He will talk to you as a father, like an African father will guide a child. And he cares as an African. In fact, one experience I had with him when we went for a conference in Ife, we were meant to go into town. He said, wait, do you know your way? Okay, when you go into town, be careful. Do you have some change to pay? I mean, the last time I had that kind of conversation was with my own father. And it took me into a journey that because I lost my father, I started feeling this is a father. So the African in him never left me. He was assimilating, bringing development, helping us to rethink, to provide our own, to provide solutions to our own problems. His works also took us into journey of identity. His book on identity dealt with how your identity should not be taken away from you. You should be proud of your identity, because if you are not proud of your identity, no one will come and teach you how to utilize your identity. His books on rule of law and government, the Yoruba moral code, in fact, that's my favorite. Why? Because as a researcher, I try to merge it in all aspects of Africa in Nigeria. Whether you read it from the Yoruba perspective or the northern perspective where I come from, or the Igbo perspective, it tells us that there was a rule of law. We had our own norms and values. We had a way of dealing with our problems. So why aren't we going back to our own? Because this our own is so special, and it can solve whatever problem that exists. Because that one has no room for favoritism. It does not choose class. It does not choose human. And if you look at why we are where we are today in development, you realize that the humanities, who are supposed to be the voice, are being silenced. The truth is, Africa, we don't have a place on the global table. We are just an experimental tool. At every point in time, they develop new ways of exploring or exploring, then exploit us. We don't have a seat on the global table. We are just they tell us they correct the globalization business to us, but we don't have a space here. We are just a tool. So he tells us that we are humanity, but we are being silenced. We are being that trying to alienate who we are and selling their own. And I love the Yoruba moral. I love it. Please, the rule of law. Everybody try and read that book. Read it and try to interpret it in where you come from. Because the truth is, traditionally, there are things that were norms with every African. You can't take your brother's wife. It's a taboo. You can't sleep with your daughter. It's a taboo. A man and woman. There's a lot of things that regulate with us. But because now we are trying to enter into the global journey that there's no space for us, we are negating our individuality, our roots, our originality. And that is why we are where we are today. So for me, this academic journey took us into a lot of, for everyone who has encountered his works, his articles, his books. He has a lot of books. In my presentation, I don't know, but because of time, I'm just talking about the ones that if you read them, it will give you a very good insight into who you are. Because you must find your identity to even know your potentials. So find your identity, know your potentials, know what is expected of you, because the original law of the land of Africa is you do your part, God does his part. So if we go back to that, we live in consciousness of who we are, how we work, it will go a long way. So my theoretical, the statement of my problem is as you work found it closes the gap in preservation, as you say, when you go through the work, as it close the gap in our challenges in cultural preservation, retention, promotion, course, his work with that. He does that because what keeps reminding you, and this reminder is clothing gaps in how we think. Then my theoretical framework is acculturation. Acculturation helps you to adapt for the culture and maintain your culture to find a balance. So he always finds the balance in his work, despite his interaction with the balance. And in conclusion, I say, let us work, go through it, especially that rule of law, the overall culture. Apply it to your foreign perspective and try to speak to where you come from, and it will help us. Thank you.
I only hope that it will not. Okay, I will not say. No, no way. I'll not. I reserve my. You know, the rule of law you're asking us to go and read. At the end of the day, the perspective might not be the same, but at the same time, though it's a contribution. It's good to recommend work to be read by everybody for our interpretation. But that does not mean that you have not for granted what think Bewaji is. Like I told someone, we will ask, our case of time is the case of 5 blind men describing an elephant, but someone touched the tusk and said, this is very smooth, and right, the object, the animal is a very smooth animal. And the one touched one of the legs and said, this is very rocky. And I said, so we are all describing the same man from different perspective. Thank you, Ruthie. God. Yes, Ruth, for the wonderful presentation. I will not more than the name. I'll go straight to the final presentation by Dr. Femi Balogun on work peace and environment towards an Afro-Yoruba political ethics of eco-omoluabiism.
Good morning, distinguished scholars present. Since the last time I met Professor Ishola Bewaji at a Baigaj in Enugu, that was 2005, he has been influencing me. You know, he has told me that we, as African scholars, we have to theorize from our cultural values. So exactly that's what I'm doing this morning. Now, the title of the paper is Peace, War, and Environment towards an Afro-Yoruba political ethics of eco-omoluabiism. Now, this work is trying to synergize 3 areas of scholarship: ethics of war and peace, ecological and environmental philosophy, and Afro-Yoruba political ethics. Now, in the field of ethics and war and peace, 3 major areas, 3 major theoretical frameworks are common. We have war realism, we have just war theory, then we have pacifism. Now, the central claim of pacifism is that the central claim of war realism is that when you fight a war, you try your best to fight a war to promote your interests. Look at what's happening between Israel and Iran presently. Understand? So exactly that's what realism is talking about. You fight to promote your interests. In fact, according to realism, you must fight a war in order to promote your interests. Now, pacifism says that war is an evil. Therefore, fighting a war is not something you should go into as a moral against. And if we look at the first one, war realism, there's nothing about talking about the environment. If you look at pacifism, that simply means that if you don't fight a war, because according to it, you know, war is an evil, so we don't go into war. If something's happening in the environment, we are not fighting to promote it. So also it has somewhat negated the people of the environment. Now the third one is the just war theory. Now the just war theory has 3 basic sets of principles: the just ad bellum, the just ad bellum, the just in bellum, and just post bellum. Now, just ad bellum is talking about basic principle you must follow before you go into war proper. Now, just even to talk about the basic principle you have to when you are fighting a war, then just talk about what must come to pass, you know, after a war has been concluded. Now, if you look at the 3 basic theories, none of them really gives much attention to the interest of the environment. Now, where this my theorization has come in, I'm trying to see that eco-omoluabiism, a derivative from ecology, and what African political ethics. how it can be adopted to address the lacuna we can find in warrialism, just war theory, and pacifism. Now, if you look at eco-modernism, it's a derivative from Omoluabiism. Exactly. The Omoluabiism is a philosophy so derived from what we call Omoluabi. And in Yoruba, in Afro-Yoruba ethics, we have Omoluabi as a vertex of amalgamation of values and virtues. You know, it can be solved. That's what we call virtue ethics. Now, according to that theory, we can see that Omoluabi is a person that's always decent in thinking and action. Is that clear? Now, if we translate that to eco-Omoluabi, we see that someone that is committed to thinking rationally before he takes action, and he acts on the basis of that thinking rationally. Is that clear? Now, in the case of war, if you think critically before you go into war, you know that you have to think about the human beings you are going to kill or that are going to be injured, the human beings that are going to live in that environment, and the environment itself. Because we are in Yoruba cosmology, you know, we are bound with the environment. So in whatever we do, we try our best to make sure that the core, you know, find the human beings are not silver. Then number two, we also think that the environment we are living is also important. So if we use eco-Omoluabiism, we see that fighting wars, even if you must fight wars, should be conducted in a way that will be congenial to both the human living and environmental sustenance. I rest my case.
Dr. Wagner. Eco-Omoluabi. It's I missed the opportunity of having Professor Bewaji to supervise me, my PhD, some times ago. He tried to take me to Jamaica. And although I was given admission with full funding, I think I changed my mind along the line. I didn't tell you because I already went out of philosophy. I moved away from philosophy at the time. I met an anthropologist, and but I think it's an interesting thing that we are all, regardless of the discipline, we are still interrogating Bewaji from different angles. And that is why I want to thank all the presenters for their wonderful views. And the comment we want to hear now is not a condemnation of what you have done. It's something, a perspective, there are different perspectives to help to get the work better. So I will take a few comments. Yes, Doctor. I will not take you, sir. Our organizer first. I'll take you the last. Professor Omosulu. Dr. Tenida. Yes, what's the time? Dr. Lion, okay, don't see. Agabiodun, then I'll take Ogarosulu. Please, your comments should be comments, not another presentation. Oh, yeah, you have the floor. Yes, Dr. Dyer. Yes.
Oh, yes. I was going to address the last speaker. One, in the light of history.
Please introduce yourself and your.
Oh, you have introduced me now.
No, I said Dr. Dyer. It's my. That might not be your name.
Okay, let me start off. My name is David Oladipo. I'm from Ayotunde, Babalola University. By degree in philosophy by lecturing. In the light of history, Yoruba were into war themselves. I mean, so I wanted to know how come the Omoluabi thing didn't prevent them from even going to war. A whole lot of, I mean, you can, the history of the Yoruba,
You know better.
everything with history, you know. So, what was happening? Number two, a lot of time I think that African philosophers go, people are supposed to know a perspective about some of these things. They call me universalist, that was my product. You know some of these concepts out of proportion, you know, and they don't disguise some of us who have background, you know. I had a lecturer who was saying something about Omoluabi yesterday, and I was going to throw it on his face to that. this thing about Omoluabi.
What do you have about it? Go straight to the point. Go straight to the point. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to agree, but go straight to the point.
In the Yoruba society, you read stories of people who are villains, and it is this villain that their names are mentioned today. I mean, the strong men of our history in Yoruba culture are not people who are Omoluabi. They were people who betrayed, I mean, you know, after that. There is a name that actually, I mean, how many Omoluabi names survive till today?
Thank you. Yeah, please.
Oh, sorry, I like that.
Thanks for listening. No. Note it down. Note it down.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Isaiah.
This morning is still morning.
Okay, yes, for University of Lagos here. So my comment or question goes to the last presenter who presented the topic on Omoluabi. And I'm going to start with the question. I'm going to start with the question of the traits of Omoluabi. That we normally get it, if not habit. So, and I'm always concerned when people talk about Omoluabi in this contemporary age. Or when people are talking about morality at this contemporary age, whereby those who are supposed to train our kids, the ethos of Babalola, they don't even have it. So how do we maintain the ethos of Babalola in this contemporary age, whereby most of the lesson or most of the knowledge that goes to our kids are trained by the media?
Thank you so much, sir.
So how do we maintain it?
Thank you so much. Yes, I have to say.
Thank you. This is shocking for Babalola University. And I have two questions. The first one goes to the last one. I like you said about what is environment. Well, I want to really ask if words to have roots and regulations to follow. Because in my perspective, the one means absence of order. So I want to know if there are going to be rules and regulations. This is the pastor should destroy this social. So I want to know that. And second question goes to the Kimaya. You made a comment about Western philosophy being obscure. I want you to illuminate that what do you mean by Western philosophy being obscure, and then how do you intend to provide that? Thank you.
Thank you to say. Fabio, do it.
My name is Ira. I want to engage the last presenter. I want to first applaud the coinage, echo Omoluabi. But then leveraging on sharing the felt echo coming from that literary theory. I want to ask this. Omoluabi is a behavioral theory and expected behavior from the typical Yoruba person within the Yoruba environment. Yoruba environment brought the word echo there. Now, the question is it possible for everyone within Yoruba echo space, that is environment, to have an act of Omoluabi? And if this is not possible, then the war and the peace that is becoming a polemic or polarity to a house that is divided against itself, which will not stand. So if we are campaigning for peace, and some people are also campaigning for war, so where is going to be the meeting point? And where, especially in the international,
Please.
Don't go there.
People in Yoruba people, where there is unity, where this expected Omoluabi behavior is not.
Fabio, go straight to the point.
Thanks, sir.
That's the
Next question.
And is that the point of the question? Okay, please, go. Ogaro to the point you said, yes, we realize the tribute did not. So when I see a tribute that I want to contribute, I'm happy. Yes, ma'am.
I want to good money.
One or two more. Only. But no, ask the last.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your opportunity. And I want to greet the speakers that really done well. And my question is to the second speaker on the significance of socio-political legacies for posterity. Please, for my own knowledge, I would love if you can enlist just 3 significant. I want to have them note in points just to let me know the significance just in 3 points.
Significance of what?
The significance of these legacies for posterity.
The legacies for posterity. You want your perspective. You don't have to list anything. Just the perspective one. Thank you so much. Yes, I'll take one to be more, then I'll take Ogarusi. Okay, 2 of you, I'll take it. Yes. Question, please. Tell us.
Thank you.
You didn't introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Chukola Ezeke for my board.
Yes, yes.
My name is Rotimi. Official time to the centers, migrant contribution. I want to make a point of the discussion, the first paper. Spoke about interrogating Bewaji's philosophy as an Ola that function of value. Very basically, the issue of something. And we read about the issue is are people where they have the knowledge of arithmetic. I want to put your attention to the fact of if you're talking about our people have the knowledge of arithmetic, it will grow and guide into the we see how in French it in indigenous arithmetic. So have them check and maybe you have the breakdown aspect of the idea about thinking, not having the foundational method. That is my I'm just going to
Yes, yes, yes.
I know that the journey of visualization is one that is essential for our future. But I don't think it's a journey that we never we are never going to even start what we talk of completing. What I'm saying that in our mind, we all desire visualization. So we can know it, we believe it era. Okay, I against you. Think about against what we desire. Think for this. You are a strong believer. That if you want as yet you see possible when I don't test like which way about that ready would say that not way anything. So I'm just going to okay, so my name is Lagos University. Talked about culture and religious interplay in human capital development, Musaruti. Okay, so the question is it really possible to have an identity that is not cultural or religiously influenced? That's one thing I want to do.
Thank you so much. What you say about Absolutely. Yes.
I have questions almost. So I will start with my colleague, Ms. Margole. Said when Professor Emeritus Bewaji's work challenged Western epistemicide. It also challenged you to begin to look inward. And you came up with a demarcation between is in line with what Professor Emeritus Bewaji is known for. Dr. Balogun. Yes, good presentation. Beauty, reality, work of art is still regarded as a subjective exercise. So, in what way do you think Professor Bewaji's work actually projects objectivity in art? Then, yes, you've imported a theory of acculturation. What do you think you are saying anew Because agglomeration is already there. Which aspect of it do you really want us to align with? Professor Battery, right? Yeah. I'm an environmental ethicist, if I have to describe myself. And I'm also the if I'm working Omoluabi ethics. Do you think Omoluabi, what you are trying to point, is really what and help us to achieve environmental sustainability? And if yes, what is really unique in using Omoluabi as a proposal for environmental sustainability? Thank you all for the presentation.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. We have 2 minutes more before that. There's a question for Arab here. There's a question for you. The question is that from the online participant, apart from Africanity and polarization perspective to identify, do you foresee the possibility of translating the perspectives to accommodate post-ethnocentric team? If yes, how does it cohere with other views to popularize African people, culture, and history in Black Atlantic states? That's a question from Emmanuel, who is joining us online. Before I allow the presenters to talk, I think I'll just, because the Carlos decided to take everybody. The only person I feel I want to ask questions is Dr. Balogun. The core of Professor Bewaji's work is in aesthetics, is that book. That book. Aesthetics. Beauty and culture. But you identify the net of struggle. You said it's that of struggle. I intentionally and I emphasize that because, okay, I think you already said yes. We don't have to agree with me, but let's see the perspective how it's going to go. So we take the responses in the reverse order this way. And I know why, because I want to quickly stop it before we get to the time. So you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. I have before.
You have 3 minutes.
5 questions before me. Let me start with the last one. Commodity is really what is environmental sustainability, right? Right. Did I get it? Did I get it, sir?
This is what you get. Yes.
Now, in this form, somehow the education is wrong. And in education, there are 2 levels of analysis. Understand? Mental and physical. Troubles. Now, as educationists, I want to recommend troubles. And yes, to implement troubles. And so, let me spend the time. But I feel like for speak. Anyway, I'm a teacher. Now, as educationists, is to recommend lay the path. I think. You say your word. Is that clear? So, in the case of commodalism and environmental sustainability, what I teach, I cannot see it dropping. Just leave here and then go. Environmental attention. You drop anything outside like this, understand? That's environmental advice. So, environmental. Am I so answering your question? So, what you say, you put that there, it will lead to environmental sustainability. Now, let me go to the fourth question. Behavioral theory as possible to do. That is possible. Word, if you act it out, understand, that shows that other people don't achieve. In leadership, you're not giving to another. In leadership, there's something called leading by example. Example leading. Is that clear?
Yes.
So, example, follow me. So, sorry, because we just have some friend, my good friend there. Philosophy,
You can't get to that, don't worry, go to the next question. Okay.
Okay, war. Yeah, there are rules and regulations in war. We have what is called international law of peace and war. That's what international ethics of peace and war. So there are rules. Now, for is an entire war game, but there are still rules. Now, the last one.
I think that's
Okay. I would like to look at the aspect of acculturation. Is that which of the aspects we should dwell? Yeah, because my work was doing, I was taking my work. If you have gotten the base of my tradition, at the end I said, from all the acculturation has different dimensions. But the one my attention to go I worked with the joint that is not and the one of everything was get two cultures together outside the balance. I'm trying to place it out, I'll give it to you. Then the other aspect of the say how does one identify have an identity without the culture and religion? But that's did I get you right? So how can you have an identity without culture or religion? This is really your culture is your identity. For that sense. So you have to have a balance. It gives you balance. It defines you. The culture defines who you are. Your long status of the body. So I go to have the question about okay. Then decolonization. Yes. I if not for the fact that people are watching the video, I would have told Abraham said something about it. I'm wearing a big not because I am for situation. But inside me, it's not that I have online, I would have showed you the situation that left me bound. That's what I'm wearing. I as a person, before my dissident, although